I'm 35, I train at home, I smoke, I drink, I love junk food. I'm certainly not going to some gym and giving up my life. I'm certainly not one of them gym bros who only trains and does nothing else. I'm certainly not, you know what I'm not doing? Cutting up broccoli and putting it in little boxes. If I make enough little boxes, maybe I'll get some bicep.
Andrew Tate runs an empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars, is a father to a bunch of kids, has countless girlfriends, and until recently, when the agents of the Matrix locked up the top G, he was traveling around the world to appear on every notable podcast under the sun. So what is his secret to being able to keep up with all of this while maintaining such an amazing physique? And I swear, if you say it's because he's one of God's favorites, I'm gonna be pissed.
I am one of God's favorites.
In this video, we're going to be answering that question by breaking down Andrew Tate's training program, lifestyle, steroid use, and daily routine. And we're going to be seeing if the many assertions he makes around health and fitness are actually supported or disproven by modern day science. Let's start strong by taking a look at Andrew's diet. Since Mr. Producer is grinding for that bag non-stop, he has very little time to stop and eat. Tate follows the OMAD diet, which stands for 1 meal a day and is a form of intermittent fasting. So each day he'll skip breakfast and lunch, and then he'll just crush a giant dinner in the evening. But what does the king of hustling actually feast on each night when he does eat? Well, unsurprisingly,
it's a carnivore diet. It is basically living on 85 to 90% of what you eat has to be meat.
A whole lot of meat. Now, there's a lot of real benefits to following this type of diet, including increased insulin sensitivity, fat loss, alleviating hypertension, and decreasing inflammation. But of course, the reason why the #1 girlfriend snatcher follows this diet is because of its ability to add zeros to your bank account. Okay, well, not directly, but listen to what Tate has to say.
1 meal a day is good. I like being hungry most of the day. It keeps my brain firing. When you're hungry, you're on. When you're full, you're not. I feel better when I'm hungry.
So while he doesn't necessarily understand why this diet makes him feel better, King Cue Ball is definitely onto something here. During a prolonged period of not eating, also known as a fast, the sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the fight or flight response, is activated in response to the body's need for energy. This results in an increase in the release of the stress hormone cortisol and the neurotransmitters adrenaline and noradrenaline. When released, these compounds help to improve focus and cognitive function by increasing alertness and arousal. And no, not that type of arousal, you degenerates. So fasting's effect on the autonomic nervous system is a big reason why people report to feeling more alert and more focused when fasting. Other reasons fasting improves cognition are because during fasting, the body switches over from powering the brain using glucose to using ketones. Also, fasting releases something called brain-derived neurotropic factor, which has neuroprotective benefits. And fasting also helps keep insulin levels low, which has been shown to improve focus. Now, if you guys are liking the science-based breakdown and want to see more like it, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment science breakdown down below. So clearly eating 1 meal a day has a lot of benefits when it comes to staying locked in on your work. But it's not all positives, as these longer periods of fasting comes with some risks, like dehydration, nutrient deficiencies, electrolyte imbalances, and disordered eating habits. So always make sure to have a chat with a medical professional before you change out your diet and try something like this. Also, eating 1 meal a day isn't a great plan if you're trying to build muscle, as it'll be hard to get in the amount of nutrients that your body needs to grow. But if you do want to build muscle and really improve your physique, what should you be doing? Well, a great first step is to download the app MacroFactor. MacroFactor is the ultimate smart diet tracker and nutrition coach that's powered by the latest science and designed specifically to help you get your dream body. But what sets MacroFactor apart from other diet tracking apps? Well, its smart coaching feature provides science-based recommendations tailored to your goals. Then, as you're following your plan, you'll receive weekly macro updates to make sure that you never hit a plateau and you're always seeing results. So it's pretty much like having your own personal nutrition coach. Plus, with custom food and recipe builders, you can easily log your own meals and share recipes with other users. So to get to work building your dream body, download MacroFactor today by using the link in the description of this video and then use affiliate code DEMERCE to get your first 2 weeks free. Okay, now it's time to talk about Andrew Tate's current workout program. And when I say current, I mean the program that he followed before he got taken into custody by the Romanian police. Luckily for Tate, I doubt he's having a hard time staying in good shape behind bars, as his brain is probably burning thousands of calories a day as it works overtime trying to figure out a way out of these human trafficking charges. Anyways, before he went to jail, Tate would hit the weights every morning for about 30 minutes. And he even admits that he doesn't really like training. That's why he does it first thing in the morning to get it out of the way. Now, you might be saying 30 minutes a day doesn't really seem like enough training to get this kind of physique, especially at 35. Well, you'd be right, and there's a couple things at play here. The first is that Andrew Tate had a long career as a professional kickboxer, and during that time, he won many international and world champion titles. So of course, he was able to build up an amazing foundation of fitness that has helped him stay in shape up to today. After all, maintaining your physique and your fitness is much easier and takes a lot less work than it takes to actually improve your physique and your fitness. So that's a part of the reason why Andrew Tate can get away with training so little. But there's another reason why Dr. Evil can live the top G lifestyle of drinking, smoking, and working nonstop while maintaining a well above average physique. And that's because of his abnormally high levels of free testosterone. Now, before I break down why I think he has such high free T, let's take a listen to Andrew's reasoning to why it's so high.
Because of my elevated levels of free testosterone. And anyone at home wondering how I do it, the actual truth is I live with my brother, I live with my cousin, I live in a very competitive environment. I got enemies. I'm Tinder swindling.
Gotta stay on edge.
I'm on the edge. There's people after me. When you live on the edge and you're constantly looking around you, it's hard to let your testosterone levels drop. He ain't having three. Bro, I gotta get through 20 bitches a week. I need it. My body, your body's only gonna produce what you need. He ain't out here pimping.
So 1, he says he exists in a very highly competitive environment. 2, he's constantly under an extreme amount of stress. And 3, Mr. Caillou over here is absolutely drowning in the pussy. So let's take a look at the modern day science to see if any of these claims actually hold water. And we'll be starting with the science of how competition affects endogenous testosterone levels. The studies covering this topic show that there are 2 rules when it comes to competition affecting testosterone. First, when a man is faced with a competitive situation, their testosterone will rise in response. But what happens next will depend on the outcome of the competition. If the man wins, they'll see a temporary increase in their testosterone. But if they lose, they'll see a temporary decrease. There's also research suggesting that factors like how close the outcome of the competition was and the cortisol levels of the competitor can have an impact on the degree to which the outcomes have an effect on the testosterone levels in the winner and the loser. So this is all to say that simply competing isn't enough to boost your testosterone. You need to be taking more W's than L's. Now, luckily for Tate, over the past year, he's been taking W after W, up until the point to which, of course, he got arrested for sex trafficking. That L probably chopped a few percentage points off the old test levels. And of course, going to jail sounds pretty stressful. And speaking of stress, that's our next topic. How would always living under extreme stress affect young Heisenberg's test levels? Well, there is research that shows men will experience a significant temporary rise in testosterone in the face of great short-term psychological stress. But the story is very different when we start taking a look at the effects of long-term chronic stress on testosterone levels. When you're faced with a stressful situation, your levels of the stress hormone cortisol will rise in response, sending your body into a fight or flight mode. This is completely normal and healthy, as it's just your body's way to make sure you're ready to handle the situation at hand. While this stress response usually turns off once the stressful situation is passed, never-ending stressors means that your body is stuck in this fight or flight mode, resulting in chronically elevated levels of cortisol and chronic stress. This type of chronic stress is why Andrew Tate says he always feels like he's on edge and has a jumpy trigger finger. Now, this really matters because cortisol and testosterone have an inverse relationship, meaning that one goes up, the other one goes down, which is not great news for good old One Punch Man's claims that being super stressed leads to higher free testosterone levels. And there's more, because Tate is on record in a number of videos saying that he really struggles to get more than 4 to 6 hours a night of good quality sleep.
You can maybe get 5 to 6 hours a night, mate.
Because he's under so much stress. And we know from the research that even short-term sleep deprivation like this can lead to big decreases in testosterone levels. So imagine how big of a negative impact this 1-2 punch of chronic sleep deprivation and chronically high cortisol levels is having on discount Jeff Bezos' test levels. Now, before we get to Tate's real secret on how he stays in such amazing shape, we need to cover his final claim that his free test is so high in part because he is constantly running through dozens and dozens of different Instagram baddies each month. So it's actually funny because there is some truth to this. There is research showing that men will experience a testosterone boost while having sex. Also, there's a good amount of research showing that single men have slightly higher testosterone levels than men in committed monogamous relationships. But on the other side of things, there's also a bit of research showing that abstaining from sex and even ejaculation can have big increases on your test levels. So this is a bit complicated. Unsurprisingly, an individual's testosterone levels and sexual behavior are closely linked. So it's definitely something we'll talk about more in future videos, but it's a bit too complicated to cover here, and it doesn't really seem like it's having that big of an impact on his testosterone levels. Just kind of funny to talk about. So all in all, I think Andrew's claims around why his test is so high kind of fall flat. Managing your stress levels and getting good quality sleep are probably 2 of the most important things that you can be doing to maintaining naturally high testosterone levels. So then, in my opinion, what's Tate's secret? Well, I think he's taking performance-enhancing drugs. And that's not just pure speculation, because Andrew Tate has actually released his own blood work, which seemed to indicate steroid use. So it's kind of weird that he released it as evidence to the contrary.
I don't know about none of this.
He knows blood shit.
Yeah, I don't know this shit.
To explain what I mean, first you need to understand the 2 units of measurement that we use to track testosterone levels in the human body: total testosterone and free testosterone. Total testosterone represents all of the tests floating around in your body. But what might surprise you to hear is that only about 2 to 3% of that total testosterone is free and available to bind to your androgen receptors and create all the positive effects that people chase from testosterone. And that 2 to 3% is called free testosterone because it's the testosterone that's not bound up by binding proteins like sex hormone binding globulin or albumin. So this test is actually free to do stuff to your body. And on Andrew Tate's blood test, it showed normal levels of total testosterone, but abnormally high levels of free testosterone, meaning that while he had a normal amount of total testosterone in his body, an abnormal amount of that testosterone was free, unbound, and allowed to affect the various systems of his body. Something like this would only happen to Tate if his levels of sex hormone binding globulin were suppressed for some reason. Reasons for suppressed SHBG include things like obesity, insulin resistance, and a bunch of other stuff, and of course, steroid use. So it just seems a little fishy to me, but I'm not a doctor, I'm not his doctor, I can't make any conclusions. But after looking at all that information, what do you think? Is Tate natural, or do you think he's using performance-enhancing drugs to maintain his physique while he's under a great amount of stress? Let me know down in the comments, and now go check out this video on Tom Hardy's secret for getting huge to play Bane, and I'll see you there.